Did George ever go live? Not that I can tell. Not that I can tell. So, updates on this drama. We watched yesterday Caitibugzzz and her stream, and where she talked about what happened between her and George. Katie just posted something in her Discord. Here it is. I've been seeing your messages on Insta, Twitter, and especially here. The loveliest people. I want to remind you all to stay safe and don't stand up for me if it means putting yourselves at risk. I need to get off the internet. As all my friends are far away, I've been alone scrolling. But I have so much to say. So much I wish I could say, but I'm trying to wait until all is said to state my piece. Although I don't think I can stand another second of waiting and watching and waiting more. Most importantly, I'm not scared anymore. I've seen what you all have gone through. I will continue to fight for you, for everyone scared into silence, not believed, and those who want something they can't take back. I love you all. Dude, I'm scared. I saw Punz and I almost cried. We do have Punz drama, unfortunately. We do have Punz drama. So that's the update with George. Give me a second here. So let's get into who Punz is first, okay? Okay. So before we get into the drama, let's get into it. Into this, all right? Rapunzel, no. I'll tell you, okay? Punz is, his name is Luke, better known online as Punz or PunzOP, is a Twitch streamer, YouTuber, and Twitch moderator who's a friend of the Dream Team. He is a member of Dream SMP. Exo Irish, thank you so much for the $20. Hoping you have a great day. Don't forget to like the stream all. Much love, XO. Thank you so much, Irish. Guys, remember to smash the like button, okay? And subscribe. Okay, so, yes, Punz is he's part of the Minecraft YouTube community. So, yeah, he's 27. He's got a pretty hefty YouTube following, 330K. And he's met Sapnap. He's part of that whole, group of Minecraft YouTubers who all work together, right? Minecraft YouTube community is already a huge red flag. I don't know if it's even about these online communities as much as it is about just in general, So let's look at his Wikitubia, okay? Luke, born January 31, 1997, age 27. Better known online as Punz or PunzOP, is an American gaming YouTuber originally from Massachusetts, now living in Florida, who makes mostly Valorant and Minecraft gameplay content. He produces significantly more Twitch content than YouTube content. I got to 700 views from just talking about Atlanta hood. Imagine being slapped by your father. Jesus. Anyways, I'm considering just leaving fully because it's just so much. Well, here's the thing, Wise. Like, these things happen. Miscommunications happen, and we need to allow people to have the ability to grow and to change, right? Obviously not a good thing if George did grope this girl under her shirt, but it's also, it shouldn't be the end of his world, right? It shouldn't be the end of his life. I would say, just have empathy for the girl and just wait to hear them, For the fact that Jay Schlatt is the most non-controversial is so funny. I don't know if you want to know this, but Punz has gone dark, basically. Jay just changed his profile picture and banner. Okay, so, yeah. He first uploaded September 2nd, 2020. We tried speedrunning Among Us, beat Dream. This video went viral, gaining Punz thousands of subscribers. Punz is known for being one of Dream's friends and being one of the members on the Dream SMP, although he doesn't regularly stream Dream SMP content, choosing instead to stream FPS games like Valorant or speedrunning. He was part of Team Vove, but left somehow before joining Dream SMP around mid-2020. So those are some championships that he's been in or whatever. Yeah, he has a dog named Teddy. He has a sister and a brother. So yeah, he's at 300,000. Minecraft SMP, I think it's a server that a bunch of Minecraft YouTubers participate and make content out of. So, what happened with Punz is the question, right? So, one of Punz's exes posted a thing on Tumblr, and it seems like everybody in the Minecraft YouTube community is getting accused of something at this point. So, here it is. My experience with Luke, Punz. Content warning, toxic relationship, racism, dubious content. I know in the past I said that I would no longer speak about him publicly, but when talking about my experiences with and emotional mistreatment, I begged to keep it anonymous, but after reflecting on this for a week and seeing so many incredibly smart and strong women tell their stories, they have given me the strength to say his name. If you read my last post, I nicknamed him One. So this person, Andi, made this post. So let's read this post first. I don't know if I would say they're creepy as much as they make really bad decisions, right? Chat, I'm laying down. I don't want anyone to think I'm ignoring them. I'll still be listening though. Night. Have a good one, Abaddon. Thank you. And once again, guys, if you like the content, please consider subscribing, super chatting, becoming a member, okay? We also have Discord subscriptions now, so you can always do that as well. I want to start this off by saying it is not a competition, and I do not want to compare my experience to anybody else's. Shubblle is so strong, and I admire her and everyone else who has spoken up about experiencing endlessly. Disclaimer 1. This is way longer than I intended it to be. I did not plan to go into as much depth as I did, but the words just kind of kept coming, and I kept thinking that if someone else in a similar situation to the one I was in, it would be good to point out that even some of the smaller details so they can see that these behaviors are not something to be overlooked and could be a symptom of a bigger issue. IDK, I apologize for how lengthy and wordy this is, but I hope it all makes sense somehow. I would, but I dropped $300 at the vet because my cat decided to eat a foot-long string for no reason. Damn, Chase. So sorry to hear. Well, have a good night, Nevea. I definitely streamed for way longer than I intended to tonight. Wait, just a second, guys. 1 second. Okay, so there's a disclaimer 2 here. Yeah, it was posted on Tumblr. Funny enough. Okay. Disclaimer 2. A lot of you know who one of my exes is, and I'm simply asking you please not make this about him. I'm simply sharing my experience with some of my past relationships and hopes that they help someone else. I beg of you, do not go on Twitter making threads speculating on whatever, because it's just going to cause me a bunch of problems, and I don't want this to be brought to his attention. If you share my story, please do not do it with the intent of starting drama. If you share my story, focus on the behaviors I'm talking about instead of trying to figure out if it's about him. Disclaimer 3. Jesus Christ, 3. This goes without saying, but I'll put it here anyways. I will be talking about toxic relationships, mention of self-harm, mention of implied violence. If any of these topics are triggering to you, please scroll away, protect yourself. Oh my God, how long is this? No, it's okay. I've been in a lot of relationships, but there are 4 that I would truly identify as the ones who had the biggest impact on me. 2 of those I would consider emotional mistreatment. I don't want to say that I was for reasons that I will be discussing with my therapist this week, but I can certainly say I was mistreated. For the sake of privacy, I will be referring to these 2 dudes as 1 and 6. I think the biggest difference between 1 and 6 is that 6 was obsessed with me to the point where I felt like I was being suffocated, whereas I'm not sure if 1 ever cared about me in the first place. 1 is Punz. Get an AI to read it to us. I don't know how to do it. Number 1 is Punz, this Minecraft YouTuber. 6 and I started out pretty normally. We had a bunch of friends in common, and we were around the same people. So eventually, we became friends too. We would text and call all the time until feelings developed into a relationship. In the beginning, he was really sweet and caring, saying all the right things that got me falling head over heels. Now, something important to note is that I'm someone who has always had a lot of guy friends. When I was little and in school, my mom made friends with a bunch of other moms, and those moms were boy moms, so I grew up surrounded by boys. I bring this up because he didn't like my guy friends. Actually, I think he just didn't like the fact that I had guy friends at all. So whenever I would hang out with my friends, it was a problem. So this resulted in me never being able to go out or hang out with my friends unless he was there. How do we know Punz is man number 1? Because she says it in her Tumblr in her next post. Everyone has 1 or 2 bad relationships, but 6 is a crazy pattern. I don't think she's saying that all 1 through 6 are toxic. She's just talking about 1 and 6. Then it got worse. Before we started dating, he had decided to cut back on drinking and stop smoking. So because of this, I decided that I wouldn't drink or smoke around him in solidarity. This was not enough for him. I had to stop drinking and smoking altogether. So once, when I was hanging out with my girlfriends, we decided to stay in and get wine drunk. We posted about it on our private stories on Snap, and once he saw, 6 called me, arguing and yelling at me because I was drinking and posting about it on my story for attention. Hi, Nerdity. After this incident, I was no longer allowed to hang out with my friends because they were a bad influence. He also didn't like the clothes I wore. Sorry, let me reiterate. He didn't like my clothes when he wasn't around. It was perfectly fine for me to wear a short dress if I was with him. I was not allowed to wear revealing clothing if he wasn't around. Mind you, none of the clothes I wore were revealing. It's not my fault I'm hot, you know? What the f***? Who types that in a confession post? He took over my life, who I talked to, what I did, what I wore, where I would go. It was all up to him. My life was no longer belonging to me. And at the time, I was okay with that. I didn't realize that he had so much control over everything. I was young and naive, and he convinced me that he knew what was best for me, that he had lived more than I had and experienced more than I had, and that he knew better. He was so good at making everything my fault and making him the hero or victim depending on the situation. I lost my place, guys, sorry. Depending on the situation. I got catcalled on the street because you were wearing that dress again. Andrea, you know how that looks. Of course you got catcalled. This is why you can't wear things like that when I'm not around to protect you. I decided to have a fun night in with my friends and get drunk. I just don't understand why you would be posting yourself on your private story like that. You're drunk and vulnerable. Why do you want other people, other guys, to see you like that? And you know how I've cut back on drinking, so how do you think it makes me feel to see that? Don't you love me enough to do this for me? The worst part is I believed him because in the beginning, he helped me so much and I looked up to him so much. Surely he had my best interests at heart, right? This relationship went on for way longer than it should have. You may be asking yourself, how did you leave? If you were so in love with him and entranced by him to the point where he consumed you, why did you leave? He raised his hand. That's what got me to finally leave. A year after we broke up, I found out that he was drinking, smoking, and doing all kinds of shit. He told me he wasn't throughout our entire relationship. He was awful, and I'm really proud of myself for being strong enough to leave when I did. I'm also really grateful for my friends who stuck out that whole train wreck with me, who I lashed against in order to protect him and defend him. They stuck by me through it all, and I don't know where I would be without them. So shout out to them. LMFAO. Okay. Next part. This part is the part about Punz, the Minecraft YouTuber. One was a bit more complicated. Started out in a similar way. We had the same friends, hung out around the same people. So it was only a matter of time until we became friends too. We would call and text every day until feelings were developed. At least I developed feelings. I'm still not sure he did. I told him this, and I don't remember how the conversation went, but basically we had decided that we were talking as more than friends now. Enough time went by where I was ready for it to become a relationship, and I communicated that to him. Looking back, I think he felt pressured into the relationship by me and by our friends. Anyways, we started dating and everything was fine. We wouldn't hang out and talk all the time, but I felt like he was bored or disinterested in me, so I would constantly beg for his attention. We would hang out and talk all the okay. I became this very needy, clingy version of myself that I hated. It felt like when we would hang, he was always distracted by something else. I basically felt invisible to him. That is, when I wasn't hanging out with my guy friends. Similarly to one did not like my guy friends, or the fact that I had guy friends in the first place. I had a guy best friend at the time who was one of the most amazing people I have ever met. Let's call him S. S and one were acquainted with each other, hung out in the same circles, etc. But one still didn't like him. Sometimes whenever one was busy doing whatever he did, when he wasn't with me, I would hang out with S. We would watch shows together and just talk. Some days it felt like I talked to S more than my own boyfriend. This did not sit well with one. He would ask, why the f are you always hanging out with him? To which I would reply, maybe if you hung out with me more, I wouldn't have so much free time to spend with him. Toxic, I know, but what can I say? I was feeling neglected. So you can see what problems this caused. Eventually, I cut off. I stopped talking to him completely, and I haven't spoken to him since. Back to one. Even after cutting off my best friend, nothing really changed. He didn't spend much time with me, and whenever we would, I felt like he couldn't wait to go off and do something else. This got exhausting. At that point, I was begging him to love me, to pay attention to me, to care about me. This led to us breaking up. He broke up with me over text. It read, and I quote, I think we aren't meant for each other. I think you deserve someone that will treat you better than I do. I don't think I'm in love with you. And I tried to force myself to love you because I thought that's what I wanted, but I really don't think it is. We started this relationship when I was just tired of being alone, and I really just don't think it is right anymore. I don't think I'm attracted to you. I am sorry. I really didn't know how to end this, and this probably isn't the best way to do it, but it's time. He probably didn't need to put the part where he was not attracted to her. He could have just said, I think we aren't meant for each other. I think you deserve someone who'll treat you better than I can, and left it at that. But I wouldn't call that by any means. The relationship went on for another 6 months after this. Granted, I should have had more self-respect and never gotten back together with him, but it is what it is. So after he told me that he didn't love me and he wasn't attracted to me, we stayed friends, which basically meant that we did everything that a relationship involved without actually being in a relationship. That is, until one of his friends hit me up. There was some flirtation going on, but nothing serious. I was still in love with one, but at the time I was in desperate need for attention, and his buddy was there to provide it. When I told one about it, he flipped out, called me all kinds of crazy, and decided he was done with me. His friend and I talked about it and poked fun at the fact that he broke up with me but got mad at someone else paying attention to me. When one saw this, he ended up forcing me to show him the screenshots of the conversation. He was even more pissed and even more done with me. The next day he called me and we were basically back together again. However, this time I was meant to earn his affection. Because I did something so unforgivable and atrocious, he was basically in the clear to treat me like shit. And he did. He would cancel plans to go hang out with his friends. He would only come over late at night, even when I had class the next day. I was basically at his mercy. We only hung out when he decided. We only spoke when he wanted to. I honestly can't recall us going on any date after that incident, save for one dinner. In short, I was not a priority to him. This, combined with some other stuff, really took a toll on my mental health. I entered a deep depression and began self-harming after being clean for 3 years. I sought out help and found a wonderful therapist who really helped me, but one only saw this as one more problem. When we hung out, he would complain that I was too sad. Important note, because of that text he sent me, I was incredibly insecure, so little arguments would always end up escalating because I felt like he literally did not care about me, and he would just keep making me feel like shit about being depressed. Whenever we argued, which was very often, it would end in me locking myself in the bathroom, sobbing, nearly throwing up, while he was on his phone. I remember one specific argument started because he asked me if I would leave him for Harry Styles, and I jokingly said yes. I'm not and have never been attracted to Harry Styles. That argument escalated to the point where we almost broke up, and he said to me, you should warn people before they fall in love with you that you're so mentally ill because you're always going to bring down the mental state of who you're with. That's pretty f***ed up, I would say. He shouldn't be getting that upset over that. He used my mental health against me like that a lot. Whenever I would bring up something I wanted him to do or something I didn't like, he would call me needy, clingy, say that he was trying his best, but that I needed too much, that I was too much. All I wanted was reassurance. Looking back, that's all I ever asked for. Whenever I would ask him if he loved me, he would say, well, I'm with you, aren't I? This is the same man who decided to go to Vegas with his friends on my birthday after he promised he wouldn't. This is the same man who said he didn't love me. The same one who said he wasn't attracted to me. The same man who I would catch looking at other girls, some being his friends' provocative pictures on Twitter. This is definitely TMI, so I'm going to put a bunch of asterisks at the end of this, at the end of the TMI, so you can skip there if you don't want to read it. But there was a long period of time in our relationship where we had zero intimacy, and it wasn't because of me. This with my head a lot, because I had this idea that I was so emotional and needy that I could compensate physically. But when that stopped, my thoughts looked something like, the only thing I was useful for was, and now he doesn't even want that from me. Okay. Whenever I remember this, a part of me thinks he might have been cheating on me during that time, but I have no proof. So I guess we'll never know. Also during that time, we were arguing over the same things over and over. It feels like you don't love me, but I'm hanging out with you. That's not the same as loving me. You're so needy. And then you wonder why I don't like coming over. It was exhausting. We had the same friend group, and even our friends got so sick of us that they would tell me to break up with him. This went on for months until one day on our 1-year anniversary, he told me that his plans for the day included playing video games, nothing else. That's when I broke up with him. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I just couldn't do it anymore. More? There's more. Okay, we're almost finished, guys. We stayed friends afterwards in order to keep the peace between the friend group. After about a month, he told me he was going to do better. He said he was going to start going to the gym and maybe even go to therapy, that he was going to eat better and live a better lifestyle for me. He said he was going to plan dates for us and treat me the way I deserved. Very much vibes from that one Euphoria scene. But I was done. Maybe I didn't communicate that well enough to him and that's my fault, but I was really confused at the time and I didn't know what I wanted. Eventually we had a conversation and that's when I told him I was no longer interested in a relationship. I think I just didn't believe him anymore. I didn't believe that he would change for me or anyone else for that matter. Through the entire relationship, he was mean to me. He neglected me. He belittled me and overall made me feel like at worst and invisible at best. Even when I would offer to plan things or suggest activities for us to do together, he would be disinterested the entire time or just cancel and make plans with his friends instead. And of course, it was all my fault for one, flirting with his friend that one time, and two, just not being interesting enough. He made it feel like I wasn't good enough and at the same time victimized himself. He would tell me, Nothing I do is ever good enough for you. Well, I was the one putting in all the effort in the relationship. Then he would go, well, why would I put effort with you? Remember when you were flirting with Redacted? I still think about that, and it f***s me up. Mind you, he would only bring this up whenever I brought up any concerns or issues. Yeah, that's kind of f***ed up. It's pretty immature. Anyways, as you can tell, it took me a really long time to realize that this relationship was toxic and unhealthy, and I'm really proud of myself again for having the strength to leave and never look back. I think one of the reasons why it took me so long to realize that I was being mistreated was because everyone around him loved him. And to me, it was hard to see how someone that was so well-liked could be bad. So I felt like I was the problem. I felt like there was something wrong with me, and if I just fixed that, then he would treat me better and love me and care about me. It took a lot of therapy to realize that he just wasn't that into me. I was like a toy to him that he could just pay attention to when he was bored, but ignore me the rest of the time. Then, when someone else showed interest in me, he would suddenly care and be like, no, she's mine, you can't have her. He didn't want me, but he didn't want anyone else to have me, and that was the bottom line. That was the base of all the problems and toxicity that happened while we were together. How old is this kid? You broke up like 6 months ago. Yeah, I don't know. The guy is 27. Barely cheating, shaking my head. Never works after breaking up, be done. When she officially named him in the most recent Tumblr, I believe it goes into more detail of what he did. That was A. Oh, okay. In conclusion, both of these men were awful in their own unique ways. I hope that by sharing this, someone who is in a similar situation will see and identify these behaviors as something to watch out for. I hope that someone will see it and realize they are not alone, and that they are not the first person to go through it, and that it gets better. These events all happened over 2 years ago, and now I am in a beautiful and healthy relationship. I'm studying something that I'm passionate about, and I'm surrounded by people who love, care about, and support me. I am in a much happier place now, and you will find that too, whoever you might be. I mean, again, like, it seems a bit toxic, right? But it seems a bit toxic, but, like, that's the most I can say based off this post. What I would say is, like, you know, it's never good to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't prioritize you. And you should aim for a relationship where you should aim for a relationship where you know, your needs are taken care of, right? And that you can take care of their needs. And if the one that you're in isn't right for you, if the one that you're in, the person is not willing to help and fulfill your needs, there is always somebody out there who will be. One person's too much is another person's that's all, you know? Like, one person might look at that and say, it's too much for me to do all that. But there will be another person out there for you who will say, that's it, and yeah, it'll be enough, you know? 27 acting like, yeah, he's very, very immature if he's still upset over his friend hitting on her. Okay, here's her second post. I know in the past that I would no longer speak about him publicly. But when talking about my experiences with and emotional mistreatment, I begged to keep it anonymous. But after reflecting on this for a week and seeing so many incredibly smart and strong women tell their stories, they have given me the strength to say his name. This is really scary to talk about because of the copious levels of harassment I've received from his fans in the past. So if this spreads or gets out of hand, I will simply log off. If you read my last post, I nicknamed him One. So aside from everything I said there were a lot of things I didn't include because they would have made it obvious that it was him, and it could potentially backfire on me, so I'm very afraid to post this. But I'm going to do it scared anyway, because it's not fair that he gets to just go and live his life worry-free as if he didn't practically ruin mine. Because I already made a very lengthy post about him, I won't include everything I said last time to avoid being redundant. But if I repeat myself, please bear with me. Who is this about? It's about Punz. Stars for Kai. It's about Punz, the Minecraft and Valorant YouTuber. In our year-long relationship, I had to endure emotional neglect, gaslighting, verbal, and one instance where there was a dubious consent, and much more. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is so long. Starting off at the beginning of our relationship, that's when I was getting copious amounts of hate and harassment from his fan base. Warranted or not, he decided that our relationship must be kept private. Starting off at the beginning of our relationship, that's when I was getting copious amounts of hate and harassment from his fan base. Warranted or not, he decided that our relationship must be kept private. He said it was to protect me from his fan base, but in reality, it was to protect himself. It was so he wouldn't get all the backlash I was getting. This is funny because one of the things I got called out for was saying the B slur, derogatory term used against Mexicans/Latinos. I won't get into the nuances, but if I could say it or not as a Puerto Rican, because that's discourse and that does not pertain to this specific situation. But you know who definitely can't say it? A white boy from Massachusetts. Ooh, she's calling him out. When I was getting canceled for this and getting thousands of tweets calling me names, he decided that was the perfect time to say, I mean, you are a B word, aren't you? My little B word. Now, he said this completely unprompted. I was in the process of writing my apology and he just said that. I tell you this because I immediately shut him down and told him that there was no universe in which it was okay for him to say that word, and especially not one where he could just call me that. While I was reprimanding him, he was smiling and laughing. He apparently found it amusing to call me a slur. Okay. That's not, it's beans, right? You know, like Heinz beans or whatever. I'm not offended by that. I'm not offended by that, especially given that she herself said the word. 2024 says, I watched your Grace talk, I'm speechless. I don't know, that seems kind of hypocritical. She was saying the B word without, a B word with this, that's a slur, and he is joking around about it. I'm always a little dubious when I see someone assert that they were gaslit. This does seem like she's giving a good overview of being in a crappy relationship with someone that doesn't care about you. I don't think she can police him for that. I don't know. I tell you this because I immediately shut him down, told him that it was blah, blah, blah. While I was reprimanding him, he was smiling and laughing. He apparently found it amusing to call me a slur. Regardless, I mean, it's kind of funny. It is kind of funny. I tell my boyfriend sometimes to like talk in an Indian accent because I think it's funny and he never does, and I've made jokes with my friends like, you can call me whatever slur you want or whatever, but yeah, not everybody's humor is like that. So regardless, he gave me a half-assed. It's funny because they never do it, though. It is funny because they never do it because they're like, what the like, so. But this wasn't the only time he was weirdly racist to me. This is my first time being in an interracial relationship, so I was led to believe that this was normal by all white people around me at the time. But sometimes my Spanish accent would come out, and he would make fun of me and the way I pronounce some words. He also refused to visit me in Puerto Rico when I lived there, or come meet my family when I really wanted him to because he didn't like the heat, or it's dangerous there, isn't? He should have met her family. Once, while we were watching season 2 of Bridgerton, he implied that the Sharma sisters were too dark for him to be attracted to them. This hurt me because they are brown-skinned girls. I'm a brown-skinned girl. Then this, combined with the fact that he told me once he wasn't attracted to me, made me feel like my skin color was unattractive. That sucks. That actually sucks. Yeah. It's like, you can have your taste, but keep it to yourself, you know? It might be on the shallow end, but it depends on their experience. Like, people bullied with that word for decades while bad things were done to them versus white passing suburb kid. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Kay. It's going to be different for each person, so. And it's more funny to me to say that to my friends because they're so shocked by it, you know? It's not funny when they do it. It's funny that they're shocked by it. And they're like, oh my God, and they get so scared about it. Anyways, this part is really up, I think. I think there should be a rule in relationships where, like, women's self-worth is so much based off of our looks, and it really shouldn't be. But the fact that media and our, you know, the entire society, like, really hones in on how a woman looks and, like, makes her self-worth really dependent upon it, there should be, like, an unwritten rule in relationships where, like, dudes don't say things to, like, make a girl feel unattractive, especially over things she can't change. You can't change your skin color. You know, I've been in that situation where I've like dated people who didn't understand me or my culture or anything, you know? Everyone is beautiful no matter skin tone. Yeah, I've definitely been in these types of situations where somebody's been like, I don't date Indian girls, or like not attracted to Indian people or whatever, you know? So. But I do remember feeling inferior to him throughout the relationship because he was white and I was not. I chalk that up to all the microaggressions I had to deal with because I had never felt that way around white people before. Another thing I had to endure was him constantly making me feel like he was embarrassed to be with me. That's another thing. Like, yeah, I could definitely see, like, if he's talking down about him coming to Puerto Rico and meeting her family, like, yeah, it will make her feel less valued and like she's less important, right? And it makes you feel like this person views you as inferior. Like if they're unwilling to make the effort to come see you, unwilling to make the effort to talk to you or whatever, not talk to you, talk to your family or whatever, you know? I lived in Florida most of my life. If he lives in Florida and is scared of Puerto Rico, he is terminally on. That's true. Yeah, the least he could have done is try to meet her family and go spend time with her. It shouldn't be all on her to go see him. That's unfair, you know? Another thing I had to endure was him constantly making me feel like he was embarrassed to be with me. Because I was canceled, he didn't want to associate with me too much. He did defend me on multiple occasions, I'll give him that, but he only did it because his name was getting dragged in the mud along with mine. Excusing my actions made him look better for being around me. In reality, he didn't really care. Because he was such a big content creator and someone I looked up to professionally, I took his advice as law. He told me to tone down my personality, keep a low profile, to change things about myself to be more palatable to his audience. The same audience that spoke about me like, the pussy can't be that good, Punz, please stop defending her. So I changed a lot of things about myself and my content to better suit what his audience liked. He made me feel like if his audience liked me, he would be public about our relationship and stop hiding it. He told me the reason why he wanted to keep our relationship a secret was because he didn't want to get hate for it. But this wasn't true. On my 20th birthday, he went to Las Vegas for a Twitch Rivals event. That night, I asked to FaceTime him to say goodnight, and he refused because he was at a hotel room with his friends, and he didn't want them to know that we were together. It was as if my mere presence or the utterance of my name was a source of embarrassment for him. That sucks. That really sucks. And he didn't let me forget it. It wasn't just a public thing at that point. He didn't want people to know we were together, period. This was devastating to me because I would talk to all my friends about him. I was so proud to be with him, and I was just one more problem to him. He made me feel so small and insignificant just because his fans didn't like me. Oh my god, there's so much left. Guys, I can't do this. We might have to catch up on the rest of this. There's so much. There's so much left to read. Excuse me, Punz, what the heck? Yeah, that's true. Okay, he would berate me a lot. Not just due to getting heat online, although he did do that a lot. But in general, whenever we would get into an argument or disagreement, he would always call me names like annoying or weird or stupid. He would raise his voice at me if I did something he didn't like and call me an idiot, and that really hurt. I felt like I couldn't bring up anything or do anything without getting insulted. If I hadn't seen him in a few days because he was too busy streaming, and I asked to hang out, he would call me needy, clingy, and annoying. Granted, he might not have been wrong, but that is not something you say to someone you claim to love. He also insulted me when I was in depressive episodes. I have BPD, and at the time, I was not being treated properly for it. So I was all over the place, emotionally, and he was what I clung to for validation, reassurance, and love. I talked to him when we first started dating about my disorder and told him that if it seemed like something he couldn't handle, that he could opt out of the relationship. I guess he didn't think it was that bad or something, I don't know, because whenever I had really bad depressive episodes, he would tell me I was too sad to hang out with. He said that my sadness was a burden to him, which would be fair, but once my mother had a conversation with him about me, she told him that I am someone who needs a lot of love and caring. She said that if he wasn't willing to put in that kind of effort into a relationship, to just leave me alone. Damn, her mom stepped in. Her mom stepped in to be like, please give my daughter love and care. That's heartbreaking, you know? He reassured her that he would be there for me no matter what. He told my mother that he would protect me and my heart. He did not. He took all the warnings I gave him and ignored them and then made me feel like I was the problem. And even worse, he would say that I was pretending to be sad to get his attention when he would neglect for days at a time. There are some smaller things, like the fact that he made me feel really guilty whenever he would spend money on me. Also, he would be really mean about my eating habits. For context, I used to suffer from an eating disorder. I was anorexic and had a really unhealthy relationship with food during high school and my first year of uni. This relationship began when I was recovering from my ED. For me, eating was really hard. So I had certain comfort foods that, while sometimes unhealthy, at least it was something to eat when I didn't feel like eating anything. He knew this. Yet, whenever I would crave some of these food, he would call me fat. Constantly told me I'd gain weight from eating all that junk food. Dude, what the f***? Saying that to someone with an eating disorder is crazy. Other smaller things were that, okay, this is how you know when to leave, okay? when your boyfriend or partner stops caring about your health, that's when you know the relationship is no longer worth it. Your health, mental or physical, if your health is secondary in his head, that is when you know it's time to leave. I remember I was having really high blood pressure and really bad anxiety with one of my exes. And I told him I think I need to go to the hospital. And he was like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And he wanted me to go back to sleep. And, you know, he'd known that I was having like blood pressure emergencies for a while. It was to the point where I had to take off work for a few days because my blood pressure was so high. And yeah, and I thought that night I felt like it was really high and he didn't want to take me to the ER. And that's when I knew, like, okay, he doesn't care about my health anymore. Like, this is when we need to start ending things, you know? Everyone feels like their current love is the only one they will ever have, and they get desperate to keep it. I can imagine an instance where expressing your concern for someone's health because of the way they eat, but to tell an ED sufferer you're getting fat is so messed up. I agree. I've heard boyfriends say absolutely cruel things to their girlfriends. I've heard one guy tell a girl that I knew that he liked her body more when she had an eating disorder. Whenever I would crave some of these foods, he would call me fat. Constantly told me I'd gain weight from eating all that junk food. Saying that to someone who with an eating disorder is crazy. Other smaller things were that whenever I would post TikToks where I was lip syncing or just looking good, he would yell at me and say I was looking for attention. Same with Instagram or Twitter. Whenever I would post photos where I looked hot. He never planned out a single date for us. I would beg him to get me flowers, and he did maybe once. But I'll get into that in a bit. He would make fun of me in front of his friends to make himself look better. He let his friends say really degrading things about me in his presence. For example, once when I was showering, I overheard him on a Discord call with George and Sapnap, and I heard George say, if you don't go in the shower and have sex with Andi, I will. Once when I was really struggling with my legs, for those of you who don't know, I have arthritis and it's very painful. At the time, I wasn't diagnosed, but I was in a lot of pain. I literally could not walk. I had to beg him to take me to the ER because I didn't know what was wrong with me. Holy okay. All right, yeah, that's when you have to leave. Wow, what the I had to beg him to take me to the ER because I didn't know what was wrong with me. He didn't want to take me, but eventually I convinced him. And while we were there, all he did was complain about how long it was taking and that he would have rather been at home streaming. Whenever I would talk about my interests that I was excited about, like shows or books, he would be incredibly uninterested and say that those things were stupid and he didn't want to hear about them. I know all these things seem very silly or superficial, but cumulatively it was awful. Who is this about? This is about the Minecraft YouTuber Punz. Now for the arguably most serious thing I'm going to talk about, I want to preface this by saying I'm just telling my side of what happened. You can come to your own conclusions about this. On April 25th, 2022, it was our 1-year anniversary, and I had made a dinner reservation for us. I expected him to plan something throughout the day for us to do. He told me he was going to spend the whole day playing Valorant, so I got upset and canceled the reservation. After a very heated argument, we calmed down and I asked him to come over. He came over about an hour later with flowers and drinks. I was 20 at the time, so I couldn't buy the drinks myself. He brought Smirnoff and Trulies. For context, I'm a lightweight. I always have been. I literally get tipsy on half a cocktail. And that day, I hadn't eaten anything because I was in distress over our argument. So we get to talking and drinking. I blacked out after my second Smirnoff. Apparently, I drank 3, but I genuinely cannot remember anything after finishing the second one. The next morning, I woke up naked in my bed. I woke him up and I asked him, Luke, why am I naked? And he said, because you didn't want to put your clothes back on. When I clarified to him that was not what I meant, he got defensive and said that he didn't realize how drunk I was. He proceeded to tell me that I initiated sex with him and that I was very enthusiastic about it. He said he didn't know I could black out on 3 Smirnoffs. He made fun of me for being a lightweight and continued to make light of the situation. Then he mentioned that I fell off the bed at some point in the night and that it was funny how drunk I was. I then questioned him because if he thought that me tripping and falling off the bed was because I was so drunk was funny, how did he not know that I was too drunk? He responded by saying that I fell off the bed only after we were done. That's the day I broke up with him. I'm still really confused about what happened that night. I don't remember anything, and all I have to go on is what he said to me. We were in a relationship at the time, and he says he didn't know how drunk I was, so I'm not sure what to call what happened. He was probably drunk too, right? A while after that day, his friend that hit me up while we were broken up, and I started talking again, and I confided in him about that night. He told me to be careful saying things like that because they could get me in trouble. I spoke to some of our other friends about it, and they told me it was no big deal and that it wasn't his fault, that he didn't know how drunk I really was. Because I don't remember, I have been led to believe that this is not a serious matter. You can think what you want, come to whatever conclusions you want. This is just my side of the story. I want to add that I'm not proud of how I acted after the relationship ended. I felt really angry at all the shit he put me through, and I guess a part of me wanted him to hurt even a quarter of how I did. So I started talking to his friend and got involved with him. This backfired on me because his friend ended up really hurting me too, so I guess I got my karma. But the thing that hurt the most is that because of what I did, some of our friends took his side in the breakup. I was told that I did something terrible by getting involved with his friend, that he was already insecure about, and he didn't deserve that. These are the same friends who were witness to the dumpster fire of a relationship we had and all the things he did to me. They turned their backs on me because of this one thing I did, but stood by and watched as he treated me like garbage for over a year. They were already broken up, right? Like, it's not like she was cheating on him. I will conclude this by saying that while this relationship has been over and done with for almost 2 years now, I carry a lot of trauma from it still. I still talk about him in therapy and have had to put in a lot of work to heal from what he did, and I still cannot say that I'm okay. I'm very blessed to now have a patient and understanding partner who has helped me heal from the trauma, and I just want to quickly thank him for that. Nobody deserves to go through what I did. While yes, it was a toxic relationship and I had a part in that, it does not excuse all the awful things he'd said and did to me. This is my truth. Thank you for taking the time to read it. Okay. Wow. Yeah, what I'll say is that, like, so the B slur is not something I really care about because she admits that she was the one who was saying it first. And so he may have just been, like, repeating it because he thought it was okay with her. I'm not bothered by that. I will say that I am bothered by him not making any effort to see her family, not making an effort to go see her where she was at. And also very bothered by him commenting on the attractiveness he perceives from women depending on their skin color. That would make me feel bad if I were in a relationship with the guy. Also, I don't think, it does hurt to have people around your partner talking badly about you and knowing that your partner is, like, probably okay with that and probably still holds the same amount of respect for them, regardless of how they talk about you. But for every relationship, it's going to be different. Him not wanting to wish her a happy birthday also sucks. Him telling her mother that he would protect her and then treating her badly, that also really fucks. That's up, yeah. Eating disorder stuff is up. Absolutely up. And this part, it's obviously if she was drunk and not consenting. And yeah, this does seem like a pretty toxic relationship, honestly. I don't know. But also another thing to think about is, like, I think so much of this is so common, unfortunately. I think this is, like, actually super common. So I don't know. But thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. It's been a great stream. If you like the content, please consider subscribing, super chatting, or becoming a member. Can we get these bars filled up, guys? We've got bars to fill. Okay, Stardust needs to eat too. Okay, Stardust needs to make money too. So any and all subscribe, super chats, memberships are greatly appreciated. Mythic Daedra, thank you for resubscribing, by the way. Yeah, and also I gave you guys a pretty damn good content earlier tonight when I talked to Grace Thorpe. I think I really challenged her really well. So let's see. GeorgeNotFound, is he live yet? No, he's not live. He's still not live.
Exceptions.
It must be nice to, like, be able to make so much content just off of gaming and having fun. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Star read that novella. You can toss $1 or $2. So true. I read a novella to you guys, okay? Those of you who can afford it, please consider subscribing, super chatting, or becoming a member. You can also use Amazon Prime to get a free subscribe, and you can use that on my channel if you want. Miss April Dawn, thank you for the resubscribe. Very much appreciated. Also, let's see. Abaddon, thank you for becoming a member earlier. Triggerman, thank you for the $5 and the $1.99. And thank you, Gay Odyssey, for the $2. Nihilist, thank you for the 5. Outstanding, thank you for the 2. Exo Irish, thank you for the 20. Very much appreciated. Kaylee says, for me, his silence is proving that he did do SA. Just my opinion, though. Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is, you know, like, the dude is definitely not treating her right in this relationship. Especially, like, making her feel bad about her body and herself and making her self-esteem, like chipping away at her self-esteem that way. And then this, you know, violation, right? That sucks. That is so terrible. I keep seeing people say that Punz responded. Is this true? I don't know. She has a habit of getting drunk. She did before on stream and was falling out of her chair and mentioned she had been blackout before, so it's hard to believe he didn't know she was drunk. Yeah, that's true. Let me see if Punz has said anything. He hasn't responded as far as I'm aware. Damn. It's Punz. Which Punz? Innocent people don't stay quiet, it's dangerous, don't fall into that trap. That is true, actually. I would rather wait for somebody to come out with something and respond than assume that they're guilty, right? So he has responded on Twitter a few minutes ago. Oh, okay. I found it. George hasn't been found. But yeah, I don't like to fall into that trap either, to be honest. Like, I think people should take their time to respond. They should wait and then take their time to respond, you know? It's not important for you to respond immediately. People can wait for your response, so, if you're ever involved. It's super long, though. Really? I don't see anything. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, never mind. There's show more. Whoops. I would like to start this off by saying that no way do I intend to invalidate victims in this statement. I removed my art from my profile in respect and by request of the artist. I unequivocally stand with the victims of assault. These are very serious allegations being brought against me, and I would like to treat them as such. I will directly be referring to statements with quotes from Andi's post regarding me. Background. The statement is giving more context to a relationship I had with Andi. There's a few main takeaways I feel are important. I felt during and after processing our relationship that Andi and I's personalities were incompatible. This caused a lot of clashing, constant arguments, and stress on both of us. I felt like because of this, on both sides, it brought out the worst of us. I do not stand by all of my actions during this relationship. I feel as though they do not represent the person I am today. I don't want to focus on small details as to not take away from my main points and defenses, but I would like to shed some light on some of her exaggerations and untrue allegations, as well as provide my perspective so you can see that this was not one-sided situations with me as a perpetrator and her as a victim, but how much of our relationship consisted of an extremely toxic dynamic and inexcusable behavior on both sides. That's a pretty mature response, to be honest. Dubious consent. I'd like to start by addressing the night of April 25th as referred to in Andi's statement, while also bringing up context she talked about in her Tumblr post on February 27th, 2024. I'd like to tread carefully on this sensitive topic, but also stand firm on the fact that I did not and would not take advantage of anyone ever. I realize that this is all my word against hers, so I would like to explain my experience in the most concise way possible and let you form your own opinions. In the prior post, she mentioned something that did stand true, which was that there was a long period of time with zero intimacy. That was because of myself. My lack of libido has followed me for many years and thus caused issues in multiple relationships, even having me wondering if I am possibly because I'm not meeting the standards of my partners. I am saying this to further explain that no way am I a or horny person. I was not one to initiate often at all. I've always worked hard to validate and support past victims of assault, including my own partners, which is why I'm asking you to understand my point of view in my recollection of the night of April 25th. Yeah, I think it's good to wait. I really do think it's good to wait and respond. I actually have no problem with it. Explicit warning, somewhat vivid depictions of a sexual encounter, necessary for context. From the time that we began drinking to the time that we got in bed together, at least 3 hours had passed. This time she had no more than 3 drinks, and I had approximately 5. To my memory, she had about 2.5 Smirnoff Ices. Andi says I said that I didn't realize how drunk she was, and I told her that she initiated with me and was very enthusiastic about it. And this was true. She got on top of me, straddled, and began making out with me. This was a routine way she would initiate our encounters during our year-long relationship, so I sensed nothing out of the ordinary. At no point was she seeming dizzy, slurring her words, or at all incoherent during this time. I didn't think she was any more than tipsy. I'd been around her drinking before. I genuinely didn't think she had too many drinks, and I would have never initiated or continued to having sex with her if I had any idea that something was wrong. The next morning, I woke up naked in my bed. I woke him up and asked, "Luke, why am I naked?" And he said, "Because you didn't want to put your clothes back on." This statement Andi made is true. The tone of my response was sarcastic, coming from a place of genuine cluelessness. She regularly slept with little clothing on, and I had no idea she was fully naked, as I am not someone who touches my partners while sleeping. I wasn't saying it matter-of-factly, but also didn't mean any harm by what I said. This is because at no point during this conversation, or any of our later discussions for that matter, did I feel like she was accusing me of taking advantage of her. This situation was brought up between us in conversation after the fact, where she confirmed to me that she believed I wouldn't take advantage of her, and that she trusts me. Anything I said to make light of the situation was not meant to dismiss her feelings. She did seem confused that she was not wearing clothes, but I didn't feel like she was even insinuating that I could have crossed a line. I've always been extremely cautious and understanding of her experience every time we were intimate. And to Andi, with everything I've said, I still don't mean to invalidate your experience. You do not deserve to go through life not knowing what happened that night. I'm sorry that it came off as being unserious to a very serious matter. I really hope that you still believe that I did not and would never take advantage of you in the slightest. Hiding the relationship. Another thing I had to endure was him constantly making me feel like he was embarrassed to be with me. Because I was canceled, he didn't want to associate with me too much. While Andi may have felt that I was embarrassed to be with her, this is not at all how I viewed our relationship. We began speaking and dating while long distance, and very early on into us talking, I made it clear that if we were to pursue a relationship together, it would have to be private for the unforeseeable future. This is something she agreed to in order to move forward. Her being canceled was not at all why we weren't public. At the time, I was growing exponentially online and couldn't predict the actions of fans. I looked for guidance from peers often and was advised that keeping my romantic relationships private would be better for everyone. Although it may have negatively affected her or us, I genuinely didn't think it would be safe to be public with her, and that is not only for my sake, but for hers as well. I do realize this may have caused distress or felt unfair for her, and I never intended for that. After seeing how awful fans treated her without confirmation of us, I only assumed it would worsen if I publicized it. She mentioned I did defend her on multiple occasions, which is true. I stood behind her even when it hurt my reputation. Racism. The background for anyone who isn't aware is that Andi said the B slur publicly and received a lot of backlash for it. This was during our relationship. While we were in the car talking about the situation, I made an idiotic comment where I said, "I mean, you are a B word, aren't you?" In which I said the word once, not twice as Andi refers to in her statement. This comment came from a place of genuine ineducation, as I was confused as to why people were offended. I thought it was a slur referring to any Hispanic person, and I wrongly assumed that she could reclaim it as a Puerto Rican. After this was said, I could tell instantly that Andi was not okay with it. I apologized profusely and felt extremely guilty for saying it. I was completely remorseful and not at all smiling or laughing at her reaction. This was still an extremely stupid mistake on my part, and in no way did I mean to offend her. Hiding relationships is normal in content creation. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because people will use your relationships against you in the content creation space. So it is pretty normal. I was in the process of writing my apology, and he just said that. It was after this situation in the car that I helped Andi write her public apology. I did not say this while she was writing it. My little B word, this part is just a straight lie. I did not say that. I realized that this is a word I cannot and should never have said. It was not said in the context or with the words Andi claims. I wholeheartedly am sorry for ever letting this word come out of my mouth, and I can assure you that I've never ever said it again. I apologize to anyone who feels let down or lost trust in me after hearing this. He also refused to visit me in Puerto Rico when I lived there. I did refuse to visit her in Puerto Rico, and in all honesty, this was for completely selfish reasons. I wanted to stream consistently, and this was the peak of my career. This is another instance of me being a bad boyfriend, but it was not for any reasons that she may suggest. He implied that the Sharma sisters were too dark for him to be attracted to them. We were watching Bridgerton and Andi asked me if I found these actresses to be attractive. I figured, as she was my girlfriend, the best response would be to say that I was not attracted to them and that they were not my type. My intention was to literally reassure her that she is the person I'm attracted to, not to imply that they are too dark. Then this, combined with the fact that he told me once he wasn't attracted to me, made me feel like my skin color wasn't attractive. All I wanted during my Bridgerton answer was to reassure Andi that she was the only person I was attracted to. This is completely unrelated to something I said to her when we were breaking up. I have never said to Andi that her skin color was too dark or unattractive. Thanks, Callie. I'll take a look at it. Friend A. In Andi's Tumblr post from February 27, 2024, he's making a good response so far. Honestly. She references herself and a friend of mine who hit her up. My preface is that for friend A, Andi had flirtatious interactions before, during, and after our romantic relationship. This is a much larger creator than myself and someone I was closely associated with at the time. She says there was some flirtation going on, but nothing serious. I was still in love with me, but at the same time, I was in desperate need for attention and his buddy was there to provide it. Her interactions with this person were one of the largest contributors to my lack of trust and many of our arguments in the future. Andi initially messaged friend A before her and I were dating with a flirtatious message with a desire to make content with him. Months into our relationship and after I had already moved to Florida and essentially gotten more serious with Andi, I was in a Discord call with friend A and this friend decided to tell me that Andi had DM'd him before but refused to disclose what she had sent to him and she deleted her messages on her end. When I confronted Andi, she continuously said she couldn't recall what she sent or even what it could potentially be about. Our relationship was extremely rocky and we broke up numerous times, so I'm not sure if we were dating or technically on an exclusive break. But during one of those times is when Andi and friend A were flirting and simultaneously talking poorly about me. I poked fun at the fact that he broke up with me but got mad at someone else paying attention to me. She did show me messages during this time, but I distinctly remember there being missing context in areas where the conversation didn't line up, and she would intentionally hide certain things they talked about from me. I would suggest there was more, and with more provoking, she would eventually admit and show me some of what she was hiding. This happened multiple times, and the more she showed me, the worse it got. She reassured me multiple times that there was nothing romantic between them and that she basically wanted to be with me. The next day, he called me and we were basically back together again. However, this time I was meant to earn his affection. Because I did something so unforgivable and atrocious, he was basically in the clear to treat me like yeah, this adds different context. This adds a lot of different context. If you could even possibly understand who friend A was to me, then maybe it would make sense why I was so emotionally distraught. Like I've said, I am aware that there were instances where I acted like a poor boyfriend. This was amidst the biggest betrayal of my entire life. I couldn't tell if she was using him to hurt me, or she actually wanted to be with him more, or both. I questioned everything. Yeah, considering that you have to respond to someone highlighting the worst parts of your relationship in a list and often giving the worst possible interpretation of everything, this is an okay response, with the caveat that there is a hefty dose of PR language in the parts of the apologies that are aimed more at fans. Moving on to a couple of months after a breakup, there was a situation where both Andi and I were invited to the same gathering of friends. At this point, things were somewhat civil, and we had the same mutual friends. On an outing, Andi is looking over at my phone, asking who I am talking to. I tell her the person, who is someone I later go on to have a relationship with. She proceeds to list off 3 to 4 people she was Snapchatting and then says, "You're not going to like the last person," and then proceeds to say friend. This was the moment that I decided I could not be civil or associated with her any longer. There was no reason for her to even need to tell me they were talking, but I can only imagine it was intentional to hurt me. I later learned that our mutual friends had been aware this was happening with friend A, as Andi told them, and they advised her to stop talking to this person and that it was wrong, but she did not care. Her and friend A pursued each other well after it ended with us, but she admits herself she did intentionally to hurt even a quarter of how she did. It's still funny he actually said, "Well, you are one, aren't you?" Yeah, no, I found that funny too, but issues regarding this person had come up so many times by her own free will. Issues regarding this person come up so many times by her own free will that genuinely felt like she was doing it on purpose. She wanted to make sure I knew they were talking and what they were talking about, and that I was hurt by what she was doing. Jesus Christ, there's so much. There's so much. Friend B, another key point in our relationship that resulted in a lot of frustration and insecurity on my part, came from Andi's interactions with another one of my good friends who has a larger platform than myself. From my knowledge, this friend didn't tell me about it until after Andi and I were together because we began speaking privately and he didn't know. Prior to our relationship, Andi and friend B were mutually flirting to the point where she sent him explicit photos. This whole time, and I just noticed the trending. Jesus. Rapist is trending, guys. Rapist is trending. Wow. Okay. This is something Andi flat out denied to me when I asked her, but friend B told me happened. Later in 2021, there was a time where a large group, including myself, Andi, and friend B were together. I felt like Andi was ignoring me and spending most of her time talking to and interacting with this friend, to the point where many other friends there found it to be odd and spoke about it amongst themselves and later with me. One person even said, it seems like Andi is all over friend B. When I brought it up to her that day, she completely denied it was even happening. This is just one concrete instance where I felt like she gaslit me into believing that she did nothing wrong and I was just being crazy and overprotective. Her insincere apology many days afterwards felt like, I'm sorry you think that, and not an admission of wrongdoing. This was not just a friend either. This was someone she had a recent past of flirting with. This was now the second big instance that changed my perspective for the entire future of our relationship, with a confused conclusion in my head that she may have wanted to be my friends or other creators more than me, or that she settled with me because I was willing to be with her. This made it extremely difficult to trust her and her intentions for the future of our relationship. Who are these people? Minecrafters, yeah. Well, never date people in your friend group, period. Yeah, there's some friend groups, like, I don't know how they do it. There are friend groups where, like, everybody is just everybody, and I could never. Mental health. I'm aware that I made some invalidating comments towards Andi's mental health during the course of our relationship. Overall, as she states, she has BPD, and I was her favorite person. When she told me about her disorder, I had no prior knowledge or experience with someone who has borderline personality disorder. I felt like I was in love with her and willing to support her in all the ways I could. Obviously, over time, the need she had put a lot of stress on me that I hadn't expected. He would call me needy, clingy, say that he was trying his best, but that I needed too much, that I was too much. I'm completely aware how hurtful it must have felt to Andi, that I was her favorite person and I essentially couldn't handle being what she needed. I guess the favorite person thing is like a BPD thing. I definitely told her at times that I couldn't give her what she needed, but I wish I hadn't put so much of that blame on her, and I'm sorry for that. At times, she experienced mental health crises that I felt alone and unequipped for, and I didn't know where to turn. She didn't want me to tell anyone, including her family, and I didn't want to betray her trust. This was a person I cared about very much and was struggling so much I don't think I was fully aware that I couldn't help her. In no way do I mean to demonize BPD. I'm sure I said awfully invalidating things to Andi when she needed me the most, but I don't mean to victimize myself. I just want to be clear that this was recurring struggle that affected both of our lives and in turn our relationship as a whole. Damn. This is by Punz, yeah. Our Supreme just made a splash on the red carpet. Everything's fine with Jessica Lange. Wait, for real, or what? Further context. For example, once when I was showering, I overheard him on a Discord call with George and Sapnap, and I heard George say, if you don't go in the shower and have sex with Andi, I will. I was on my phone, and Andi knew they could hear her, and she was suggesting that I should come do things with her in the shower. I obviously did not, and this is when George said what he did. I did not stand by when George made this comment. I immediately called him out. The further, dude, this girl actually might be toxic herself. This girl seems pretty toxic herself. Like, yeah, Punz was pretty toxic, but so was she. To further back this up, Andi did not hear this comment herself as she was already in the shower. I told her what he said myself after she was done because it didn't sit right with me. I was recovering from my ED. Whenever I would crave some of these foods, he would call me fat. I feel as though the entirety of her claims of me calling her fat are heavily exaggerated, not at all how it happened. Andi did have comfort foods that we would often eat together. I have never called her fat or said that she's going to gain weight from her eating habits. The most insensitive comment I ever made regarding her weight, which I meant jokingly, was along the lines of, OMG, we're so fat for eating this, after a big meal. I completely understand how this could have hurt her feelings or been a trigger for her, and I feel extremely bad that this type of stupid joke I made hurt her. Oh my god. Oscars is trending and Kimmel and Jewishness is trending. Tipster is also trending. Okay. Eating disorder, Dimer boy. Oh my god. We're almost finished, guys. We're almost finished. In general, whenever we would get into an argument or disagreement, he would always call me names like annoying or weird or stupid. He would raise his voice at me if I did something he didn't like. All I'll add to this is that our relationship felt toxic and full of arguments. It does not excuse my actions, but she did just as much name-calling and voice-raising as I did. We fought a lot. I'm not proud of the boyfriend I was to Andi, but I also feel the relationship was never stable or healthy for either of us. That's what it seems like. Overall, my experience with Andi was a year plus on and off relationship with a lot of complexities, as most relationships have. I'm including a screenshot, which is my last and only interaction with Andi since July 2022, and it is one I did not respond to. While I understand she may have trauma and a negative experience after a relationship, our relationship was something that was very heavily negatively impacting both of us in where we both hurt each other. This is the first I'm hearing of most of her claims listed here. It's taken me a while to collect my thoughts and give the best response possible. If you at least hear me out, then thank you. Regardless, I am sorry for the way I treated you and the damage I may have caused, Andi. And I hope that you can heal from your experiences and that you can feel okay again one day. And here's the message. I know you probably won't read this or care about anything I have to say to you, because let's be for real, you probably hate me, justifiably so. But I've been thinking about you a lot recently, and I hate how everything went down. I know it's all my fault, but I just wanted to tell you that I'm really sorry for all the things I did and said. I don't expect you to respond to this, and you shouldn't feel obligated to, but yeah, I hope you're doing okay, and that you're happy and healthy because it's what you deserve. Yeah, I think this is a pretty reasonable response from him. And I think it does a really good job of not putting blame on her, but, you know, owning up to what he's done wrong, but also giving context. I was watching something talking about attachment theory and relationships, so that's kicking around in the back of my head reading through this. Okay. Her response to Punz on Tumblr. Whoops. Andi on Tumblr. He made a statement on Twitter. I suggest you all read it to get his side of it all. The only things I will speak on are what we remember some situations and events very differently. That he's still very close friends with friends A and B, as well as others who made objectifying comments about me, and that the text included in his statement is one I sent when I was in a state of emotional distress over something that happened with friend A, and I felt guilty for what I did to Luke after the relationship. Clearly, it is not a reflection of how I feel now. And to Luke, I don't accept your apology because I don't think you mean it. I spoke my truth, he spoke his. That's all. Logging off. Wow. Wow. That is wild. I mean, reasonable, you have your version, I have mine. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Relationships are messy, guys, and oftentimes, part of the reason why I'm not for ending anybody's career is that oftentimes most people are going to have done something manipulative or something at some point in their life. That's the thing. Most people are going to be guilty. By the end of your life, you are going to be guilty of having done something toxic or manipulative or several times, really. So this one seems like a really toxic relationship for sure. Yeah. Seems just like a toxic relationship all around. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, seems like a general crappy relationship. Yeah, very sad. It seems like they were both hurting a lot. All right, guys, this is the end of my stream. I stayed up way longer than I wanted to. But thank you all for sticking with me. If you like the content, once again, please consider subscribing, super chatting, becoming a member. And I will be back Wednesday